Bad Bitch Bible. Bad Bitch Bible.
Hey girls, gays and days, welcome back to another episode of the Bad Bitch Bible. And in this solo episode, we're going to be getting into what to expect when you're expecting. What to expect when you're hooking up with someone. This is going to be your ultimate hookup handbook. If you're single, you're newly broken up, you've never gone around dating, maybe you just want to have a little bit of fun, this is your time to sit back, pour yourself a drink, and listen in. I think navigating hookup culture, especially in the Philippines, is so difficult because there's so much taboo around it. It's so controversial. I feel like in wider countries, it's so much easier. Like, hookup culture already exists in like high school, and that's normal. But here in the Philippines, it is something that only happens, I feel like, in college or even after college for the later bloomers. I feel like when you're in high school, diba, pa sweet lang, nothing really happens. In some schools, in some co-ed schools, I know the shit that goes down. Also in some all-girls schools, hookup culture in Tibo forward schools is very common, but that's another topic for another day. I do think that overall, there are so many things that I wish I knew about hookup culture coming into it. You know, as a newly single girl after a 6.5, 7-year relationship, or even before that, in between my 2.5-year relationship and then my 7-year relationship, there was so much that I did not expect, or there was just so much that people don't tell you, right? Kasi parang there's so much taboo around it in the Philippines, especially, where it's not really such a big conversation that you have with your mom, diba? As if naman you ask your mom, like, Mom, what to expect when you're hooking up with someone, diba? And also, I think I'm also very lucky because I was still surrounded by a lot of women in my community, or like the friends that I had growing up, the friends that I have now. Everyone's very open with me, but still, we each go through our own journeys. How to navigate hookup culture is different for everybody, right? But there are some basics that I feel like, okay, do's, don'ts, how to not get attached, all those we're gonna talk about today. But I will preface this pod by saying that I've never really been a proper hoe talaga. No, like, I am such a relationship girly that every time I tried to get into like hookup culture, it didn't last very long because I just love being loved. I love being in relationships. I'm such a romantic, but so many of my friends are still into hookup culture now, which is why I think that I've lived vicariously through their lives. So every time they hook up with someone, they tell me all the details. Sometimes it's TMI, and there's so much they share that I wish I didn't know. But again, I feel like the more open we are about these things, the safer we're going to be. I think that a lot of women, young women especially, get in so many negative situations, or situations that could have been avoided, or situations that are not the most ideal because they just weren't as informed. So if you're a virgin, if you are looking to get into hookup culture, if you feel like you never really had an ate or some close friends to confide in, please do listen in, and also send in some questions, your spicy stories for Hookup Handbook Part 2. So even if I've only been a hoe for a short period of time, I feel like I've gotten it down. First is preparation. There's two kinds of preparation for hooking up that I feel like you have to prepare for. Take a shot every time I say preparation, prepare. There's two kinds of preparation. The first is physically, and the second is emotionally. Physically, bitch, get an IUD, get an implant. Contraceptives are so important. It's 2024, and I'm so lucky that a lot of the Gen Z community now, a lot of the baguettes, they're very well informed when it comes to those things because there's TikTok and everyone has access to information so much quicker, so much better, and so much more accurate. Back then, all we had was like Friendster, right? Wala naman MySpace, wala naman tayong Google. No, you know what? I think there was Google. No, yeah, that's true. There was Google. It just wasn't as used when you were younger. Now, everyone is so much more informed. That's why it shocks me when people don't have contraceptives or practice any form of contraception. So we'll just go over the options real quick. Personally, I do have a copper IUD. Some things to note about the IUD, there's two kinds. There is a hormonal IUD and there's a copper IUD. The hormonal IUD, that one releases a teeny tiny bit of hormones into your system. I think that the hormonal one lasts about 3 to 4 years. But then the copper IUD, which is what I have, that lasts more or less 12 years because it is a copper piece. It's literally a penny up my pussy, and it works really well. The IUDs have 99.9%, if I am correct, 99.9% effectivity. I don't really know anyone that's had a scare with an IUD. It's one of the most effective, sure ways to not get pregnant and also just protect yourself, really. But I will also say the IUD is the most painful one to insert because it is up your cooch. Unless you've already given birth prior or you have a really wide cervix or like vaginal canal, it's usually pretty hard to get up the cooch because they'll put in like these things. I don't want to get too graphic or scare you off, but you do pop it in. There is a lot of pain. I got mine at the Likhaan Women's Center for free, and then I just donated. There are, again, so many other options. You can go to hospitals. You have to do your own research, by the way, as I talk about this. I am not a doctor, a nurse, a healthcare practitioner, or anything of that sort. But I do have a copper IUD, and I do suggest it to so many people, especially those that want that mental peace or mental clarity na you're not worried about a pregnancy scare, you're not worried about being irreg or something like that. But I also heard that you shouldn't get a copper IUD if you already have heavy periods because it's only going to get heavier. And that's kind of what happened with me. I do have pretty heavy periods, but I really told my OB this is what I want, and she supported me on it. So my periods have been heavier. TMI talaga since I got my copper IUD. The hormonal IUD naman, it only lasts 3 to 4 years because it is hormonal. Same insertion process, it's just different. Mine's copper, that one's hormonal. Overall, it was pretty painful, not gonna lie, but it is so worth it because I never have to think again. Like literally, it just works. Like it just does its little thing and I never really feel pain anymore. Of course, there's a bit of an adjustment process. Like the first, I think, month, 2 months, I was adjusting. You don't feel it inside you. So yeah, I can do a whole podcast on contraceptives. Make sure that you are protected. Other kinds of contraceptions, there are pills, but I can't remember if I read this correctly, but pills are usually the least effective. And then there's also the arm implant. Some people get the shots. There are a bunch of others I haven't really explored, but those are the ones I looked into. For me personally, I didn't want anything with hormones in it because I'm already a crazy bitch. And there are side effects for every single kind of contraception out there. And you kind of just pick and choose your battles, right? But if you didn't want any side effects at all, don't have sex and don't get protection, right? Because if you have sex, then you have to get protection, then you have to pick a battle. So then if you just don't have sex altogether, your battle and your struggle would be not having sex and being celibate. So you pick your struggles. And for me, the struggle I chose was my IUD. The insertion was painful and the adjustment period was a little tough. After I got past that, it's been smooth sailing ever since, bitch. And I've had it for a couple years now. I am very happy with it. With the arm implant naman, I remember that it is hormonal. Birth control pills have like 2 whole pages of side effects. It's absolutely insane. And there were some studies that linked birth control pills to mental health issues. So I don't know, I'm on that side of the web, so I don't know if you agree or disagree, but if it works for you, go, by all means, go, diba? But for me, I really didn't want anything with hormones because of all the side effects that come with hormones. Not to say that there are no side effects with copper, there are, but I feel that for me and my body, me personally, hormones would hit me a little different, make me a little silly, and could have possibly put me in a situation I didn't want to be in. Another thing about a lot of hormonal contraceptives that you have to think about is getting fat. And I know this sounds so shallow and so superficial, but as somebody that used to be a fat kid and like I hated my body, I wasn't so comfortable in my skin, I wasn't confident. I worked so hard to get to the place that I'm at now where I'm really happy in my healthy weight. I'm really comfortable in my body. I'm so confident. And so if that was taken away from me, like all my hard work, through, let's say, birth control pills or any kind of hormonal contraceptive, whatever, and I started to gain weight because of the adjustment of the hormones in my body, that wouldn't make me too happy because of all the hard work I already put in. And so as shallow and as superficial as it sounds, I don't give a shit, bitch. Like, I am one of those people that actively, honestly, like, I like my body type now, and I really wasn't happy when I wasn't healthy. I'm happiest now because I'm healthy, though there are other people also that get on birth control and then they lose weight and then they get big tits and then their skin clears up. So talagang to each their own. But based on my body, my experience, my conversations with my OB, hormonal pills ain't for me. So that's where I'm at. Don't ever get into hookup culture without protecting yourself first, is all I'm saying. Aside from that, always bring condoms because there are so many STDs, STIs out there that you don't want to catch, girl. Like, imagine having the best night of your life and then waking up to an STD. Damn, that would suck so bad. So always bring condoms, especially for people that you don't know. And even with people that you know already, there's always some shit that you don't know, or there's always shit that they're not telling you. So always just bring protection and really push for that. Because even if you do have an IUD or you have the implant, all of these contraceptives are still 99.9% at most effective. So be protected, still wear a condom, always put that latex on. And if they say that they're allergic to latex, they have latex allergy, bitch, I just found out through Eman in my podcast episode with Eman Atienza. She told me that they're apparently latex-free condoms. So you should hop on that. Always bring maybe some latex ones, some non-latex ones in your little purse. pack it. Now, emotionally, what do we prepare for a hookup? Prepare to not get attached. Really talk yourself through this situation. Tell yourself that this is either a 1-2 time thing at most, and tell yourself that you're not getting into this for a relationship, because nobody is. Nobody gets into hookup culture expecting a relationship. And those that do expect a relationship after at least a situationship, they just get hurt. We've heard that story so many times where like people will be like, oh, and then he hugged me after, then he kissed me the morning after, then he booked me a grab the morning after. Okay, and what about it, bitch? He's still fucking other bitches. Who gives a fuck? You can't expect that you're gonna get something after this. So you really have to set your mind na ito lang yon. You're just gonna hook up and that's it. Really walk yourself through if you're ready for it too, because sometimes you might think that you're ready for it, or maybe you're just drunk and excited, which is fine. Live your best life. You're only 21 once, but at the same time, really tell yourself, like, are you ready for this? If you're still grieving over your ex, I don't know if that's the best thing for you. You know what I mean? Or like, if this is maybe your friend that you've been hanging out with for a while that you kind of don't know if you have a crush on, and then it leads into a little hookup, I don't know if that's the best situation for you. So really think to yourself, is this situation going to lead into heartbreak? Or can you really walk out of this situation unscathed? The thing is, I can't say now you're never gonna get hurt. I can't say now, oh, you're always going to be okay. You're always gonna, no. Sometimes you really have to go through that process. So okay lang din yon. But tell yourself muna and talk to yourself muna about it. Think to yourself, are you okay? Are you ready? Kaya ko ba to? I really want to say that hookup culture, it's not for the weak. Can't do this shit if you're too much of a lover girl like I am. That's why I don't last in hookup culture too long. But at the same time, I don't think that you should miss out on it, because you're only young once and dapat makita mo lahat ng nota na gusto mo. Lang. But I feel like you should experience all that you want to experience, and you shouldn't be held back by traditional Pinoy conservative culture. Like, that shouldn't be the way that you operate your life. And if it is something you're ready for, you are safe, you're prepared emotionally, physically, you've got contraceptives, then go. Diba? But sometimes that process of thinking to yourself takes a little bit of time. Don't decide in one night. If you're newly single, or maybe you're just experiencing going out for the first time, every now and then you'll experience people going up to you, wanting to hook up with you. Never say yes to the first hookup. Okay? Never ever say yes to the first hookup, because there will be others. So collect and select and think about it. Let's say tonight you're asked to hook up with someone. Think about it muna, diba? Like, play hard to get and really think about it. Like, is this for me? Especially if you've never hooked up with someone before. Think about it. They will ask again next week if they want you that bad. And if they don't want you that bad, you shouldn't be hooking up with them. Period. Let's say someone nga goes up to you and they're like, hey, can you hook up with me? If they go up to you and they're like, hey, do you want to take this somewhere else? La, la, la. Pretend you're playing hard to get, but actually really think about it if you've never hooked up with someone. And then maybe if you see them out the next week and you're really ready, then do it. But if it's not something that you've thought about, and then somebody just approached you, kind of made you lande, momol in the club, you don't have to sleep with them right away. Like, hindi naman yun prereq. Hindi naman yun requirement. You don't have to say yes. You never owe anyone a yes. So think about it. I know it's 2024 and girls can always make the first move. Women empowerment, woohoo. But at the same time, I am such a player be played kind of gal. I am such a ghoster be ghosted kind of gal. I do not like ever make the first move when it comes to guys. With girls, it's different. If we're talking about like a WLW situation, I think it's very different. But if we're talking strictly like guys, straight man, you're a straight girl with a straight guy, I don't ever make the first move because I know my worth. And not to say that girls that make the first move, they don't know their worth. I think girls that make the first move, that's bold and props to them, but that isn't for me. I love when people chase me, because I don't chase, I attract. Again, I really don't mind if it's your thing to make the first move, but it's not my thing to make the first move. I really like being wanted. I want to feel wanted. And if they don't want me that bad, then I don't want you at all. And I also read this book, Why Men Love Bitches and Why Men Marry Bitches. Those books are so good. I swear it sounds so like traddy or conservative or whatever the fuck, but I swear to God, for every single woman ever, you need to read that book. It's like my top 2 most recommended books. Somebody also said on the internet somewhere that in a relationship, it always has to be the guy's a golden retriever and the girl is a black cat, because the longest marriages or like the longest situations always turn out the best when it's the guy that's chasing the girl, because it's just human nature. And again, there's so much science that can back this up. You can do whatever you want to do. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but there is so much science backing up how relationships or like certain dynamics work better and work longer when the girl is the one chasing the guy. And I kind of live by that. Again, it just works for me. And so I just personally never make the first move, and I'll never say yes right away to a guy that's asking me out. Like, I'll make him wait. And then maybe like after a few days or like a few months down the line, I'm like, okay, he can get this puss. I'm kidding. But like, give it time. There's no need to rush it. You don't need to hook up with the first dick you see, the first night you see him. There is no need. So now that you've prepped yourself emotionally and physically, now what do you pack for a night out with somebody or a hookup? In my little purse, there are a bunch of things I always pack. These are like my non-negos. I am not hooking up with anybody unless I have all these things in my bag, aside from my wallet and phone, of course. Number one, a toothbrush. I have a little tiny foldable toothbrush. I think it's very essential. If you don't have a toothbrush, buy one real quick, pop by a 7-Eleven, and make sure you have a toothbrush so that the morning after or like midway through the night, so that you feel fresh. I don't know if it's a me thing that I feel like my best self and I feel most confident when my breath is fresh. But if you don't have a toothbrush, maybe some mints, maybe a little Listerine strip. I used to love those little like melty Listerine strips. I felt like those just brought back life to my mouth. I just love feeling fresh, so that's one. Number two is always an extra pair of undies. Just pack one. It is so easy to just roll it up really, really tiny, throw into your tiny purse. And let me tell you guys, like, I would have the tiniest purses going out, but I'm able to squeeze in all of these things when I go out. The next one is mini makeup wipes or a mini bottle of micellar water, so that you can freshen up, so that the morning after you're not going through the walk of shame, and you can actually leave his place, leave that hotel looking fresh and fab, like nothing ever happened. There is nothing more embarrassing to me than the walk of shame. And again, that's to me. If you're cool with it, then go. But for me, I love walking out of a place or waking up the next morning feeling super fresh and nobody can tell me shit. Okay, so I always have a little bag of makeup wipes, makeup cleanser, anything to just remove my makeup and start fresh. The next thing, of course, is power bank. I always carry a little power bank. I have over here, I don't have it right now, but I have a power bank in my purse that's this tiny. It's literally the length and the size of my finger. And so I can just pop it in my phone and charge almost anytime without a cord. So I keep a tiny power bank. You also do this for protection, because if your phone dies, you don't want to like ask that guy like, hey, do you have a power bank? Hey, do you have a charger? And if anything happens, at least your phone is still on. And if you've shared your location with your friends, your fam, your sister, whatever, which you should always do, by the way. Never go on a hookup or never hook up with anybody that you haven't shared your location with for safety. Nobody wants to be in a unwanted situation, so always make sure that people have your address or wherever you're going, the name of the person that you're with. Don't hook up with anyone that you don't know their name. Oh my God, you guys, be safe out there. And again, I know I sound so tita or so intense, but to be honest, there's so many situations that I've seen where I feel like, if they just knew better, or they took that extra step, or they sent their location to their friend, so many things could have been avoided. And so share your location and always have a power bank, so that even after a long night out, you can still chat your friend and let them know where you're going. If anything goes wrong, you can get out of it quickly and be able to communicate with people outside. Okay, on the aura side of things, always bring lip tint. That's a me thing though. Maybe it's just a me thing that when I wake up the next day, even if my face is fresh and clear, I like a little lip tint on my lips and cheeks para pagising namin, bongga, cute, fresh, diba? Rosy cheeks. I don't like anyone ever seeing me at my worst, and that might just be like a control freak issue, or that might just be like a trust issue, or maybe trauma speaking for me, but I love always looking super fresh and like a little rosy. Parang I never let anybody ever catch me crusty. Also bring a hair tie, because after a night out you can get gross and sweaty, so that you can throw your hair up in a little tie. I would say to bring a hair claw so that it's a little stylized, but sometimes I know our purses are so tiny, so the best thing you can do is bring a little hair tie, because it's so easy, it's so small. And last but not the least, like I said, in preparation, for physical preparation, always bring protection. Always bring at least one. Ideally, you bring two forms of protection in your little purse, 2 little condoms in there. It is so little, so that even if, let's say the guy says, I don't have a condom, do you have, diba? Or, I'm allergic to latex. Do you have a non-latex one, a latex-free one? So there are always ways to protect yourself and make sure that you are prepared for this moment. Now getting into my non-negotiables when hooking up with someone. Number one, always make sure that they are single. No wife, no kids, no situationship going on, no ex that they're still in love with. And I know that this sounds so intensive, so insane, but I am serious, because if you're hooking up with someone that apparently has a wife, or you're hooking up with someone that, is still in love with their ex, and then maybe they're still like on and off, whatever, they say they're on a break, pero yun pala, they're still dating. It can complicate so many things down the line because you're sharing a night with this person. You don't want to be entangled in a bad situation, right? So make sure you do your research, make sure that they're single, they have no wife, no kids, no ex that they're in love with, whatever. But to be able to do your research, it means taking your time. You can't just hook up with that person that same night. You just met them. Don't hook up with them. Do your research, take your time, because it's always in those drunk moments or like crazy moments that you get into situations that are less ideal. And it's happened to some of my friends actually, where, they hooked up with somebody and then yun pala, they have an ex that they're still kind of seeing, they're on a break lang, and later on the girl messaged my friend, was kind of like, you're sleeping with my mans, don't touch my mans, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, if my friend did her research, she would have known that this guy was taken. And I know men lie, men cheat, men fuck you over, but at least if you did your research and it turns out, even if it's wiped off of the face of the internet na may jowa pala siya, you can say, I did my research and I really did not know, for the love of God, that this man's was taken. I really mean, like, be a CIA, stalk them to the ends of the earth until the point where you see their mother's Facebook account or their cousin's Facebook account. Girls, you're good at that naman eh. We are also good at that when we are stalking our crush, or when our man is giving us hints that he might be cheating on us. We are so good at those things. So it doesn't hurt to do your research. Take 10 minutes out of your day to check if this man may be taken, a serial killer, or not. Another non-negotiable for me is that they use protection. Again, raw dogging it might be really nice, might be really fun, but I feel like those kinds of situations should be saved for people that you're in a long-term relationship with, where you're only sleeping with this one person. Even if you have an IUD, you shouldn't be raw dogging it with a hookup because of STDs, STIs. And if it's just a hookup, which means you're not that close, which means you're not dating them, you don't know them that well, they could be hiding things from you. And so you don't know if they have an STI or STD. Maybe it looks normal, maybe it feels normal, but it's only after that you reap the funks, I'll say that, of the situation. And so best is always to wear a condom and make sure that that is a non-negotiable for you, so that you don't get into a negative situation. It's also very important because I feel like it's always the guys that are like, no, I don't want to use a condom. No, I'm allergic to latex and latex-free condoms, or like make so many excuses, or say that they're uncomfortable with the condoms or it feels better. They'll just give so many excuses. Those are red flags. Like, that's an immediate red flag. If they're not willing to, at the very least, wear a condom to sleep with you, hello, gising, that's whack. If they were actually good, decent men, they would be open and more than willing to wear a condom when sleeping with you. It's not really such a big ask. It's the bare minimum. So if they say no to that non-negotiable of wearing protection, using protection, wag na lang, okay lang. I know that you might be thinking, hala, ang gwapo niya, sayang, this might be such a fun night out, blah, blah, blah. Grabe, ang daming tita sa mundo, please, kahit wag na to. Like, you can let this one go. There are so many fish in the sea, and the honest truth is, men sleep with who they can, women sleep with who they want. Women get to decide, and you have to train yourself. Remember that you are in a place of power. You are in a position where you can say no at any point in time. You don't owe anyone a yes. You don't have to say yes right now. Let's say you had an amazing night out, and then at the very last moment, he's like, actually, I don't want to use a condom. Then say no. Then don't sleep with him. You are in a position with power. You can sleep with whoever you want to. There are men out there that will worship the ground that you walk on for one night only. So choose them. Don't choose the guy that's making up a million different excuses to not wear a condom just to sleep with you. Like, again, that's bare minimum. This whole like wear a condom situation, it's a test. It's a green flag, red flag test. If they say yes to wearing the condom, green flag. If they say no, red flag. Then move on. There's so many other guys in the sea, and men will only sleep with who they can. That said, of course, consent. Non-negotiable. Consent matters. No always means no, but there are also a million other ways to say no. You could say you're not comfortable with this. You could say, oh, I'm not so open to this. You could be honest and say, oh, maybe next time, whatever. Like, whatever is going through your head, remember that consent is 1000% important. And if you don't give someone 1001% consent, There's no reason to do it. You should never feel pressured into situations that you don't want to be in. I also think that you could be doing it already, but then maybe he's trying something different, or maybe he's a little quirky, a little, I don't know, like he's into something, right? And he wants to try that with you, but you're not into it, but you've already been doing it. You can say no, even at this point. So you have every chance to say no at any point in time. Remember that consent before doesn't mean consent during. Like, you can change your mind, you can communicate that, and sometimes the absence of like that communication makes it blurry. So just communicate. Like, do your best to share, to communicate, and be open. And again, do your research so that you're not sleeping with the wrong person, or sleeping with a red flag, rather. So, dudes, only go to somebody's place if it is their own place. And I don't mean like may-ari sila ng bahay, but at least renting out that space. I feel like one of the lowest points ever is like coming over to someone's place and they're like, oh, I have a roommate. Imagine sleeping with someone, with somebody sleeping below that bed, or like next to that bed, like on a bunk bed situation, I don't know, or like with somebody in the next room that's their family member. Like, that couldn't be me ever. And I know I might have, let's say, pretty traditional or maybe conservative or even like high standards ish, but I would never talaga sleep with somebody else in the same room, or I would never sleep with somebody with their like mom in the house, you know, or their dad in the house, or let's say they're like, oh, makiki bahay. Have you heard of that? Like, people will bring people home and then they're like, yun pala, it's like the friend's house. It's not even their house. Yeah, yung mga ganon, I just can't talaga. It's so gross to me, because it's like, if you're old enough to smash, you should be old enough also to book yourself a hotel room or even motel room, but a private space, because I don't think it's such a comfortable tone, or it doesn't make people feel that comfortable when you bring them to yun nga, yung bahay ng friend mo or kwarto ng friend mo, or like bahay ng family mo, pero andun nga yung mama mo. Parang hindi siya nakaka-sexy, nakaka-ick siya, to be honest, okay? If they can't have their own place, then get a hotel, get a motel, whatever. Another do for me is live your life. I know I say all these things, but again, like I always say in all my other podcasts, take it with a grain of salt. Maybe this is the way for you, maybe it's not. Again, just live your life to the fullest in the way that you want to. I don't have the right to dictate your life. You don't have the right to dictate mine. So to each their own, do what's right for you, do what makes you feel happiest, but do what makes you feel safest. Another is that only sleep in their place, not yours, so that you can leave anytime you want. Even with my boyfriend now, like ever since we started dating, I didn't want him coming to my house so that I could leave anytime. It's harder na magpaalis ng tao versus you leaving the next morning whenever you want. Let's say you have school the next day, you have work the next day, you have an internship, may ganap ka with your family, your friends, whatever. At least you can get up anytime and go, versus somebody sleeping in your room, in your house, and you're like, hey, can you wake up? Because like my mom's coming over in like an hour, and like, damn, that sucks. So like, always go to their place, not yours. Especially if you're a girl seeing a straight man. Now, again, this might seem a little insane, but I'm the kind of person that'll scope the scene. I'm gonna check if there are cameras in the room. I always like to check if there are cameras, because I've heard horror stories. I've heard of horror stories where they were doing it and then she realized like there was a camera in the room recording them. And that might be such like a far-fetched instance for you guys, but it does happen. And so I would say, like, just do a little check, you know, look a little around the room while they're in the bathroom, check their stuff, snoop a little bit to be safe. But I will say the one that happened to my friend, it was because she hooked up with a guy she didn't know at all. Like, she just met that night. So which is why you gotta do your research, be safe. Ideally, only sleep with friends of friends para safe. Now, number one, do it too often. I have this thing where I truly feel, because I'm a lover girl, diba? I am really a lover girl. I feel like if you sleep with anyone more than 3 times, ang hirap na to not get attached. I feel like at that point, you'll get kind of close. You'll know what turns you on, turns him on, whatever. Parang naging close na kayo. And so, it is almost inevitable to become a situationship or get attached, because I would say 1 or 2 times, that's hooking up. More than 3 times, that's a situationship. So don't ever do it more than 3 times if you really just want it to be a hookup lang. I don't really believe in fubus, because most of my friends that had fubus, they ended up becoming situationships and then it got messy. It's always the hookups lang that were like 1 or 2 times lang. That I understand. That talaga, that's like hookup. That's like fubus. But then if you are seeing them like every week for 3 months, 12 times, maybe you even see them out on the weekends. I feel like that's a full-blown situationship. So I would say don't sleep with them more than 3 times straight. Sleep with another person, just not the same person, so that you don't get attached. I think that there are many ways to get attached, which we'll talk about in a second, but don't talaga sleep with them more than 3 times. Next is don't text them the next day. Wait for them to text you. If they text you first, then cool. If not, don't text them at all. A hookup is a hookup for a reason. And again, this is the Hookup Handbook. If you wanted to talk about like how to get into a relationship with someone or how to make someone fall in love with you, I think that's a completely different situation. That's a completely different topic na. But if we're talking about how to not get attached and how to just hook up with someone, don't text them the next day. They are not your mom. They're not your dad. They're not your friends. They are just a hookup. Relax. Another is that don't do it with exes or flings of your friends. If your friend is sleeping with someone, don't sleep with them. Even if they're just fubus, don't be tunnel buddies. Don't be Eskimo sisters, I think is what they call it. Don't do that because it can mess up your friendship. And I know that so many women now are very comfortable with those kinds of things, but there are still so many ways that it can get very messy. So I would just kind of stray away from those kinds of situations to make sure that I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I don't get into fights with people or end up falling for this guy that my other friend is still seeing. I really don't believe that like if I had a man that I was sleeping with but then we're not super official and then my friend ended up sleeping with him, like that's not okay with me. I've always been such a girl's girl and I don't believe in sharing men. Ang dami-daming tita sa mundo, okay lang talaga kahit sa'yo na, kahit hindi na sa akin. I would never sleep with a man that my friend was already sleeping with. I would never fight over a man with a friend. That's just never been the kind of person I am. I am a girl's girl through and through, to the point that let's say my friend was seeing this guy, right? Kahit hindi super serious. And then they broke up. And then I ended up kahit fling lang with that guy, sleeping with him one time. Ew talaga. It's like nasty. It's like crusty behavior. I could never touch a man that already touched my friend. Ever. Ew, absolutely disgusting. That's why when people ask me about like, oh, do you think it's fine if like friends and like the whole exes thing and blah, 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 I don't fuck with it. I will always put my friendship first before a man, before dick. Friendship over dick. 1,000%. I firmly believe this to the point that you could write this on my tombstone. That's about it for the do's and don'ts. Next question is, how do you find these people that you want to hook up with? How do you find them? The easiest way, of course, is online, and then you do your background research, you become a CIA, FBI agent. I swear to God, they should have like an all-female or women's only CIA organization or like women's only FBI org. I feel like that's what good gang is. Eme lang. I really think that online works if you do your research, but personally, I would really say friends of friends. I love it when other people are able to vouch for them. I like searching within my community or within that friends of friends circle because I just don't want, again, to be put in like a harmful situation. It would kill me inside to like sleep with someone and then only after I'll find out like all his friends hate him. He's kind of like Andrew Tate and he listens to only male podcasts. And I don't know, like I love doing background research. And so friends are friends. I like that. I like being able to have other people that I can ask about a person. And so I don't really just rely on like online. I feel like you can find hookups anywhere though, if you look hard enough. Like it's not only at the clubs or at the bars, but at your gym. I swear to God, like there's so many hot people at the gyms I go to. And I feel like if I was single or if I was like a gay man, because there's so many like hot gay men at my gym, I would have so many people to pick from because there's so many hot people around everywhere if you just look in the right places. So it really depends, right? Like on your type, on where you go to often. But if you look hard enough, you can find them in great social circles or friends of friends. How do you initiate a hookup? Again, it's 2024. You do you, boo-boo, if you want to make the first move with a man. But that's not me. I've always been the kind of gal that likes to attract and not chase. And so I let them initiate. I'll flirt here and there. I'll give them a little like eye contact, a little staring situation. If they send me a drink, that's cool. If they buy me a nice little Don Julio, that's great. But I have never really been one to initiate. So I can't really answer or tell you guys how to initiate. But to give off that bad bitch energy, honestly, it's all in the energy. It's all in the way that you enter into a room. It's in the ways that you carry yourself. It's in the ways that you project that aura. Honestly, talaga nasa projection yun eh. If you give off that vibe, sometimes I'm Kilakush and sometimes I'm a Kushla because my real name is a Kushla, right? And if I want to like be sexy, be flirty, be powerful, or even here on the podcast and how I portray myself as, I turn on like Kilakush. And for me, it's like, okay, sexy. Okay, she's that bitch. Okay, she's powerful. She's a black cat. She's this. She's that boogsh. But if I just want to be like a kush though, which is like giddy, silly, goofy gal, not really exuding that kind of sexy, mysterious girl energy, I could. I just turn that side of me on. And easily, I'm able to attract the right kinds of energy and the right kinds of people. And I read Marilyn Monroe's book, and she was talking about how when she would walk into a room as Marilyn Monroe, everyone would know she's Marilyn Monroe. And it was really in the way that she spoke, the way that she carried herself, the way that she dressed. But she could look exactly the same and walk into the room as Norma Jean. Norma Jean, I think is her real name. And people wouldn't even know she's Marilyn. Nobody would give a fuck about her because of the way that she carried herself. So if you just walk into a room with that feminine energy, and I hate to like bring in the whole like feminine masculine energy, but if again you're looking to hook up with someone, you have to exude it. If that's the goal, diba? If you're not naman, and you don't, pero like if you are trying to hook up with someone and flirt with someone, you have to have that little like sparkle in your eye. You have to give it a little bit of magic. You have to fake it till you make it. If you don't feel that way, if you don't feel that sexy, or if you don't feel that flirtatious, you have to fake it till you make it. I want to do a whole podcast on like how to be that bitch or like how to exude feminine energy or whatever. I feel like that's a whole other topic. But I saw this comment on my YouTube channel recently where somebody commented on my podcast with Denise Julia. And somebody was like, it's so awkward to watch Kilakush flirt with all of her guests when the flirty lines don't land or something like that. And the thing is that a lot of my close friends, even DJ, they know how flirty, silly, goofy I can be because I'm so comfortable with them. And so I will like fully flirt with my friends. Like I've fully kissed DJ. I don't know how many times, but it has happened. And it's like just silly girl, goofy things. And I know that that's not for everyone, but I can turn that on and off if I want to. So all I'm saying is that when you walk into a room, walk in with confidence, walk in with power, wear your favorite lipstick, wear your favorite heels, and exude that sexy feminine energy. There are a few ways to amp it up. Maybe you wear your favorite perfume, you try out a new perfume. Maybe you wear your hair a different way, you explore with styles. Just see how many little different things can add oomph to your confidence and pizzazz, if that makes sense. I know it sounds like a whole lot of hoopla right now, but I swear to God, like there's an actual science behind it, and I can talk about this for hours in a different podcast. Now let's get into aftercare essentials. While a lot of people think like aftercare is like hugging and giving each other tissues and cleaning up, showering at their place, whatever. Number one, always pee after. So many women get UTI, so many people get sick after. It's one of the best and natural ways to cleanse yourself after the situation. And always, again, like brush your teeth and shower. Practice proper hygiene. My boyfriend was always like the kind that's like, oh, just shower at my place, whatever. But no, I'm the kind that's like ghost or be ghosted. Cheat before you're cheated on. So I would always just leave and shower at my place. But if you have the opportunity to just shower at their place before going, do that. Cleanse yourself, shower, brush your teeth, pee after, and drink so much water. Did you know that doing the thing burns so many calories and it's basically kind of like a workout if you guys are rough with it, right? But whether or not, just always drink water. There are also like electrolyte packets or electrolyte drinks that you can drink after, take your vitamins. And really for me, aftercare isn't really about the cuddling, but taking care of yourself after, caring for yourself after, and making sure that you're healthy, clean, and safe. I know I keep saying safe in this podcast so many times. It's because I've been in so many situations, so many, not man so many, but I have been in situations where I felt that I wish I knew better, but because I was younger and I didn't really have a podcast like this, or people weren't really telling me these things, I didn't know any better. And I feel that with all the young people that are listening to my podcast, it is so important for me to be like, no fucks given, this is what it is. And honestly, I'm really not gonna sugarcoat it and say like, oh, it's the best time ever and blah, 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 and live your life, because there is a very fine line between empowerment and endangerment, and I want you to have empowerment without the endangerment. And that's why I keep stressing like safety and hygiene and putting yourself in the best situations and consent and all those things, because it matters so much, and that's the honest truth. And I feel like if I don't double down on that, then I didn't do my part in this podcast, if that makes sense. Okay, now we're gonna get into some quick questions from you guys. Number one, how do you tell someone that they're bad at sex, A? Oh shit, cut off na. Yeah, honestly, if it's just a hookup, I just wouldn't hook up with them again. Kasi again, this is the hookup handbook. This isn't a relationship handbook. We have a different episode for that. If they are, again, just a hookup, there's no need to inform them na just don't sleep with them again. Kasi parang, okay, you're gonna inform them. Then what? Diba? Magiging best friends kayo after. Ano yung ina-expect mo by telling them? So for me, don't tell them na lang because constructive criticism only works if you're gonna benefit from it. Constructive criticism only works if there's an end goal. Is the end goal to make them better at sex? That's such a weird goal for someone like that you just hooked up with once. Like, oh, I feel bad for you. You should get better at sex next time for the next girl. Like, that's such a weird thought to have. It's a valid thought, but it's a weird thought to have. So I just wouldn't let them know. But to each their own, again. Number 2, how to tell someone if they smell. Let's say you're doing it na, diba? And you're feeling uncomfortable. Then tell them, hey, why don't we take it to the shower? Tapos paliguan mo. What if you tell them like, oh, maybe pass na lang tonight, or like, okay, as a person with a lot of insecurities, and I feel like may times ako growing up na people, thought a certain way about me or whatever. Somebody told me this thing. I don't know where I saw or heard it, but somebody said, if you can't fix it in 5 minutes, just keep your mouth shut. It's like people that say, ay, tumaba ka. Parang it's such a negative thought or negative thing to say. Parang ang awkward to tell somebody something that they can't change about themselves right now. But if you told me, hala, your zipper, it's unzipped, you should zip your pants, parang ganon. Then gets, like that's something that you can fix right away. Or like, hala, your lipstick, parang lumagpas. Then you bring those things up. But when it's like, oh, they're smelly pala and it's just a hookup, either take them to the shower or 2, just don't hook up with them, right? Hindi naman kayo close. There's no need to communicate those kinds of things to people that you're not even close to kasi hindi nga kayo close. Dear, hookup lang to. Number 3 is how to not get attached. I get this question all the time and the number 1 answer is don't sleep with them more than 3 times. Number 2, don't text them the next day. Number 3, leave in the morning before the sun comes up. Don't stay the night. If it's unsafe for you to go home, then okay, sige, stay the night. But 90% of the time, please go home na agad. Don't stay the night. There's no reason to cuddle. You can cuddle for like a bit right after, I guess. Mag-hug, kiss, forehead kiss, whatever. But don't really like stay, 3 hours, 4 hours ka doon? What? Like overnight? Sleepover? Kala ko hookup lang. Diba? Kung hookup lang. Wala nang sleepover yon. If I had to fucking sleepover, I would sleep over at my friend's house with skincare, with pajamas I can borrow that'll offer me some hot chamomile, lavender tea with a nice little like candle lit. If I wanted a sleepover, I would go to my girl bestie's house. But if I wanted to hook up, then sige, I'll go to my hookup's place. But more often than not, a man that's looking to hook up is not gonna take care of you the way a girl bestie does. So I wouldn't put myself in a situation or sleep over at a man's house without hand soap in their bathroom. You know those kinds of guys? You know those kinds of guys actually that don't even have a bed frame? Ooh, a couple of red flags for me, by the way. Number 1, sleeping over at a guy's house with no bed frame. Why don't they have a bed frame? Number 2, why are all their sheets navy blue? Number 3, why do they have hand soap but it's untouched? Number 4, why are their towels never changed and they're always wet and they're always icky? Okay, those are a few of my red flags, but I have so many more. But anyway, going back to the point, I would never sleep over at a man's house like that unless we were officially dating or maybe a proper situationship MU moment. But a man's house, sleeping over, and they don't even have a bed frame and they have no furniture and we're not even dating. Okay, ang dami-dami na. But basically, don't sleep over because you're gonna get attached. Even if he doesn't have a bed frame, you're gonna get attached. So don't do those things. Leave in the morning. Leave before the sun comes up. I would say like a good 4 to 5 a.m. is fine. 5 is cutting it close because sometimes the sun rises at 5 a.m. 3 is a little too premature. Maybe you could do another round. Yeah, like a 4 to 5. You could leave then. Next is it normal to be affectionate before and after so it doesn't seem so transactional? I think it is because a lot of people like to cuddle for like 5 minutes, give a little forehead kiss here and there. I think it is very normal. You just have to be in the right state of mind where you don't get attached because it's if you're not in the right state of mind or it's if you like that guy a little more than you'd like to admit or if you put yourself in a situation where you've slept with them 25 times, of course, you're going to start falling for them. So just come in with the right state of mind, prepare yourself emotionally, physically, and remind yourself this is just a hookup, nothing more. Though I will say valid din eh. It's really valid to fall in love with the people that you're hooking up with. I'm just a girl, of course. I super understand that. But if this is a hookup handbook and you are asking me nga naman how to not fall in love, or on how to not get attached, then these are also the answers I'm gonna give. I feel like I'm soul tied with this PBA player that I hooked up with and now I'm left undelivered. Girl, why are you even letting yourself be just left undelivered with this guy? Hindi nga kayo eh. Diba? It was just a hookup. PBA na nga lang yan, hindi NBA. Again, girls can hook up with who they want. Guys can hook up with who they can. Kung PBA yan, pabigyan mo na. Leave him na. It is pointless. Eh, may nanonood pa ba ng PBA? Wala na. Free na nga yung tickets. Oh, attached ka pa, soul tie sa man na, oh my God. Could never be me. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to be so blunt and be so honest, but it literally, I can't. But at the same time, I super understand why you would fall for a basketball player. I get the hype. I had my UAP era of basketball boys, my NBA era. So I super get it. But if he is leaving you undelivered, bahala na yan. Leave him, sis. Don't even think about him. And oh, another thing is, I don't like being the last one who texts. I like them being the last one who texts. Like, I will leave them undelivered. And again, this could be a toxic trait. This could be a red flag. See it how you want to see it. But the best situationships, relationships, longest, healthiest, happiest can ever is when the girl's a black cat and the boy is a golden retriever. So I don't like being left undelivered, but I will leave someone undelivered. Last is how to deal with the awkwardness after. I feel like if you are sleeping with the right person and somebody that's mature and somebody that is a proper man's, or just in general, like any mature person, wouldn't feel the awkwardness after if you're both on the same page. Yun din yun eh. Yung alignment na you're both just here to hook up. And that's it. Then there is no awkwardness. It's only if somebody's in love with the other, someone has a girlfriend, may ex, may asawa, whatever. That's when things get complicated. But if we're just talking about like, oh, a hookup, you're both single, both consensual, it was all normal, whatever, there really is no awkwardness as long as you're both mature. So that's about it for my Hookup Handbook Part 1 on the Bad Bitch Bible. Let me know if you have any other questions, concerns. I feel like next time we could answer more of your questions or more things I wasn't able to touch on. But I feel like I talked for so long already with my personal thoughts, non-negos, do's and don'ts. But at the same time, I feel like I didn't touch on so many things. So feel free to send in your questions. We will be doing a Part 2. Take everything I said with a grain of salt. Again, I'm not a healthcare practitioner. I'm not your mom. I'm not your therapist. So give it some thought. You do you, boo-boo. Whatever you want to do to live your life, as long as you're happy, safe, and healthy, that's all that matters to me. And okay na yon. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye!